Well, thank you for joining us. This is Walking the Talk. My name is Catherine Achieng'a. Now today we will be focusing on the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Of course, the government has renewed the fight against corruption, and one of the bodies that is key in trying to ensure that indeed Kenya's integrity is upheld is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. So what really are they doing? What are some of the challenges that they are facing, and how are they going to be able to achieve a society that is corruption-free? Well, I am joined by the CEO at EACC, that is Twalib Mbarak, who will be giving us a progress report of some of the things that they are doing to try and ensure that we win the war against graft. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Catherine.
But before we begin the discussion with you, let's just cross over and find out what Kenyans are saying regarding the war on corruption and the work by EACC.
There are many people who have been actually convicted in the terms of corruption, but we have not seen a big fish being jailed or being sentenced. So because of that, I will say that I don't see them working as per the way we want.
On my part, I think they are trying, but as Kenyans, we have not felt the impact of EACC as much.
They should put more effort, get more people, investigate more cases.
Katika EACC tumeona improvement kwa sababu Minister of Finance aliresign na mdogo wake. Hiyo tuliona ni step forward na tulifurahia kama Wakenya. Kwa hivyo tumeona step, lakini tungependa kuona zaidi.
Mtu anafaa kushikwa, afungwe kama ni kufungwa because evidence imepatikana. Yeah. So at least wakishikwa wawili watatu na wakumiwa hata kama ni miaka 10 hivi, I think itakuwa sawa. So ni kazi ya kila Mkenya, kila mmoja wetu. Yes. EACC ni part of the team.
Corruption sio EACC, ni community sisi. Ni sisi community. EACC wanafanya kazi yao powerful na ni wako trusted.
What we as the people can do is to take personal responsibilities. Let us fight, you as an individual, help the nation fight corruption. So don't be engaged in corrupt deals and things like that, so that at the end of the day, as we come together, we ensure we have strong national ethos that can help us govern the nation and have a corruption-free nation.
Welcome back. That is the word on the street. That is what Kenyans are saying regarding the continued fight by the government against corruption. So thank you once again for joining us this evening. Let's begin with, you have been in office for around 10 months now. What are some of the things that you can say you've been able to achieve so far?
Thank you, Catherine. First of all, you need to understand the mandate of the Commission.
Yeah.
The focus of the mandate of the Commission is based on actually 3 main issues with others, but the first one is awareness on corruption, education to the public, and then prevention and enforcement. Actually 4 key components.
Yes.
Quite a number of Kenyans are focusing on enforcement because they want to see the results.
Yes.
And I don't blame the Kenyans. They are frustrated. They feel that the corruption is out of control, and they believe that arrests is the solution. Of course, arrest will act as a very big deterrence to corruption, but we need to focus mainly on the strategy of how we want to do our business. And when I came in January, that is when we launched our new strategy for the 2019-2023 strategy.
Yes.
And the focus is on 4 main issues. We are looking at high impact cases, that is cases that look at the amount of money, the personality involved, and the message.
Okay.
And then we look at the issue of asset tracing and asset recovery. We are also looking at prevention in terms of system reviews, and we also look at our communication. You find that the Commission sometimes it's on the receiving end from the public that it's not working or it is sleeping on its job. And mainly that kind of perception is driven by the people not understanding what we do. And the way you said that when we investigate cases, people believe that we should have somebody being arrested today, tomorrow appearing before court, and the 3rd day is jailed.
Yes.
But we need to understand, the public need to understand that corruption is a white-collar crime case, and there's a lot of technicality. People will ask, How come that somebody who steals chicken, he is jailed the second day, and a corrupt guy will take time? Corruption cases, they involve a lot of technicalities.
So what are the bottlenecks?
I will not say bottlenecks, but I will say the main challenge is that a normal investigator, even our colleagues from the DCI, they will tell you those are the same problems. When you are investigating a case of corruption, it depends, but mainly if it's a big mega case that involves, sometimes may involve international dimension. When it involves international dimension, there are several challenges that come up. Issue of how you investigate in another jurisdiction. Every country have got their own laws. You will not just walk in if there's a case of corruption, grand corruption in the country that is touching Kenya, and then it crosses maybe to a certain country in Europe. You'll have to get what you call the MLA, and you'll need to follow up with the other law enforcement agency of the other jurisdiction to follow up. If there's financial flow, you will have to get all the details from the banks operating in the other country. And all these are very cumbersome processes that require a lot of coordination. By the time the case is ready, it may take several years. And I'll give you a good example of a case that we've been handling, the Anglo-leasing case. The Anglo-leasing case, up to now, it's in court. People think that it died, but the case is active before the court. But it has taken long. It has taken almost over 10 years. Reason because it involved different countries where this money moved. So that one becomes a challenge to the commission.
So is there no way to fast track some of these cases?
You may wish to fast track, but when you face obstacles and the reality, you'll have to follow the law of how to get the facts. There are other hidden challenges that come up. As much as we are using English in Kenya, if the other country involved is, let's say, Italy, France, the language barrier plays a part in the delay of a case. So you find that most of these big cases, they take time to come out with a conviction.
You've said one of the things that you wanted to do was to deal with high impact cases. Let's talk about that in terms of numbers, if it's possible to get numbers. What have you been able to do so far?
I'll give you a good example. When I talk of high impact cases, look at the counties. We are now having several governors who have been charged before court. And a governor is not a simple person. He's a person who occupies a very big position in the hierarchy of the political system of this country. We have ex-governors and serving governors who we have charged before court, and those are high impact cases. We have ministers we have charged, and we have cases like let's say the Lake Basin, which involved a big amount of money that is before court. I would not like to comment about them because they're in court, but those are some of the cases which we look as a commission to be high impact cases that we have managed to take people to court.
Without really going to the merits or demerits of, for instance, the case like the one that you're currently looking at, the one for the governor from Nairobi County where we are sitting, we've seen him out in public already saying that, this is witch hunt, I'm being pursued, for something that happened a long time ago. Perhaps how do you deal with this kind of things, this kind of political noise?
I would not like to talk specifically about the governor, but it is a common sense that anybody who finds himself on the wrong side of the law must try to make noise, and corruption, basically, globally. Any powerful people who are caught on issues related to corruption, they claim that it's politics. The former president of Brazil, who is now serving jail term, when he was jailed, Lula da Silva, he said that is politics. So it is for you as an investigator to understand that you are dealing with a political figure. The best way is for you not to be diverted from your cause. Investigate the case, have your facts, prepare a file, submit it to the DPP. The DPP will give guidance. If there's no merit over that case, he will tell you this case is weak and I propose that we drop it. Or if there are gaps or cover points, the DPP will tell you these are the gaps can you fill before this case is considered for whatever? So it's not an issue. The commission will not start answering politicians. We have no time to answer politicians who make noise. We will do our work independently. We are very happy that within our work, we have the support of the political leadership of this country.
Yes.
Nobody interferes with our work. And as much as politicians make noise, we will not go back and answer them, but we'll continue investigating until these cases are concluded. If somebody will be found innocent, the DPP will say there's no case, and we shall write to that individual telling him, look, we were investigating you on this particular case,
Yes.
and we have been directed by the DPP that there's no case and this case is now closed. But we shall not close a case because of noisemakers.
What about, the public? How are you engaging them to and appreciate what you're doing? Because we've seen some instances where politicians, you've actually summoned them to Integrity Center, then they would come with a whole mob of people just to make noise. In terms of the, just to say mutuwetu sort of a thing. So how are you dealing with that?
In the first instance, Catherine, is that we know. We know when we summon politicians for investigation, it's a routine for them to come with so-called supporters in courts. That one does not scare us. We don't get scared because of supporters. As long as they come peacefully, they know their limit, they will reach at the main gate, they will not come in. We'll do our work professionally. We should not condemn the public. I can tell you with a lot of authority that the reason why this commission is now doing very well in investigating high impact cases is because of the reports submitted by the members of the public to our report centers. We get very good reports from members of the public explaining how their leaders are corrupt, how they are stealing, and that information that is volunteered by the public is the one that assists the commission to do successful investigation.
Yes.
So, contrary to what some politicians are saying, the public support us. The public give us information. And it is that information that is submitted by the public that assists us in investigating. Yes.
All right. When you got elected into office, when members of parliament, were commenting, just telling you what to do when you're joining office, one of the things that they said is that perhaps you should work to ensure that, the investigations, once you present the evidence in court, it's not too flimsy, not to be able to warrant a prosecution. Have you been able to look into that?
Who told you that we have flimsy investigation? That was a perception. There's nothing called flimsy investigation. We have professional investigators. They do their work professionally. There are many ways a case can fail. It's not because of flimsy investigation. Because this case, immediately you start investigating, that case faces several obstacles that can make it collapse. There are many issues. You may have a case where a key investigator dies professionally, or that key investigator disappears. He is nowhere to be seen. You will see the case collapsing. It's not an issue of flimsy. So, as far as the capacity of the commission, as the CEO, this commission has got good, seasoned investigators. We have good lawyers. And the issue of case collapsing can be attributed to many other things. Not because it's a chain. There's a role by our investigators. There's the role by witnesses. There's a role by the DPP side. There's a role by the judiciary. There's a role by the defense lawyer. There's a role by our lawyers. So any of those, a small blunder, accidental, can make a case collapse. So you cannot come and say EACC are doing flimsy investigation. And out of that, I can tell you that we are almost enjoying 70% rate of conviction. And the data is there. Yeah.
What are you looking at when you say, in terms of, if you just look at the cases that you've been able to prosecute successfully, would you be able to put a number for Kenyans to appreciate what you're doing?
I think first of all, on the issues of, we have quite a number of cases that we won. We had one where somebody was asked to refund over 300 million shillings although I understand there's an appeal, something like that. We have cases of recovery of land through civil suit. We have won cases. We have recovered a lot of prime plots as a result of successful conviction, where people lose cases and the property revert back to the state through the EACC. The problem we have, and that this is not even a problem, is a challenge to the entire judicial system in the country, is that cases in this country take too long to be concluded. And you heard about a month, 2 months ago, the DPP came out with this issue of plea bargain, and it's one way of addressing backlog. Because if you look at the developed countries, most of the developed countries deal with their cases, criminal cases, through plea bargain, and it addresses the backlog. And these are rich countries that have got very efficient and big workforce in their judicial and enforcement institution, but still they rely on plea bargain. Now, this is something that the DPP has come up with. On our side, on the civil matter, we have come with what we call the ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution.
Yes.
If we get that maybe a plot was grabbed and taken over by an individual, we write to that individual officially that this plot was not properly allocated and we want to repossess. Then the guy may opt to have a lawyer to tell the commission that, look, I want to surrender this title and I don't want to go on a lengthy civil process where I'll hire a lawyer. And out of that, quite a number of people have surrendered land.
So there are people who are actually taking that particular window?
Yes. But then, for us, is the civil matter. For crime, the person who determines on plea bargain is the DPP. If it is somebody who has been charged on economic crime and he wants to go on plea bargain, the EACC will work with the DPP. But it's something that is new, because there's a misconception. People believe that plea bargain is, I walk into the DPP's office and tell him that what I've stolen, can you give me half, and then you take half and I go. That's not the case.
Are they confusing it with amnesty?
Yeah,
kind of?
It's not an amnesty. A plea bargain is that maybe if you are to be sentenced 10 years, instead of 10 years, you can be given 4 years, but you'll be sentenced. But some people are mistaken, and the DPP now is on the offensive of trying to educate the public about plea bargain.
What about amnesty? Is it something that perhaps we should consider as a country for those who want to return property that they've stolen from the public?
You see, amnesty must go through the. You have to amend the laws, because there's no law right now which talks of amnesty. Yeah,
but
and of course it can be a very hot issue. You know, Kenyans are very politicized, and it can become an issue. It can be turned around to be said that people are trying to pardon criminals through the back door. But it can be an option as long as it is agreed upon. But right now, the system does not allow amnesty.
Okay.
Yes.
In terms of progress made so far, what can you say are some of the highlights of what, as a commission, you've been able to achieve to try and reach out to the public to appreciate what you're doing, and also just report some of these graft-related cases?
First of all, I will talk about 3 main components. I'll talk about the prevention. We do system audit to many institutions, and quite a number of institutions that have followed what we have suggested. There's an element of transparency and accountability. A good example is a company like Kengen. We did a system reviews and all anti-corruption measures, and they abided by that. And Kengen is a very accountable company whose budget runs into billions. They undertake projects worth billions of shillings, power plants, and it's, in terms of financially, it's a healthy company. In terms of asset recovery, we have done a lot in asset recovery, a lot. We have recovered a lot of land in Kisumu. Almost all the railway land where the port is being done right now had been grabbed. We have recovered quite a number of parcels of lands, and some are before court. We have recovered land in Nairobi. I remember when I came in, within my first 3 months, we did hand over a very prime plot in Kilimani, next to Yaya Center, back to University of Nairobi. As at now, Catherine, we have recovered 1,800 acres of land in Naivasha belonging to KALRO, formerly called KARI, Kenya Agricultural Research Institute. Those parcels of land we recovered from individuals who grabbed them.
And where are these individuals?
We have repossessed, prepared new titles through the Ministry of Land and LSC. We are going to hand over the titles back to KALRO. When you talk of this individual,
yes,
we recovered this land through ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. We got hold of the allottees who had been given during the KANU era, and we told them there's this option. You accept to surrender, or we take you through a court process. And they accepted to surrender. We still have cases of process of getting more titles back. We don't just ask you to say surrender and then you give our title, the title, and then once you give the title, there's a mechanism through NLC and Ministry of Lands,
yes,
to make sure that a new title is prepared to that particular institution. If it's a veterinary station, if it's KALRO, if it's a university, if it's a public school, we prepare the titles and we hand over back to the organization. So we have done a lot in asset recovery. And this 1,800 acres of land, this land was valued and it's 8.9 billion shillings worth. When it comes to enforcement, we have cases. We have many cases that we have done. We have about 4 governors now who are before court. We have 3 ex-governors who are before court. We are pursuing several counties, either governors or the county executive, in corruption-related cases. So what are the end result out of this? The public may not see, but now the counties are now becoming more accountable because the governors and county executive have realized that EACC is focusing on them. So it is a deterrence, but you cannot quantify it. Lastly, we have done a lot of disruption. We have done a lot of disruption, and one of the key disruptions that we made was the correctional services, where there was a contract worth 3.8 billion shillings that was almost maturing for people to be paid and supply some more of dummy products.
yes.
We managed to come in and we interrupted, and that contract fizzled. It went underground. We do a lot of disruption. The only problem with disruption is that you cannot quantify them. We get information from the public that there's this company that wants to pay people this and that and that.
Yeah.
We immediately write to them and tell them, we as a commission, we are aware of this and that and that. Provide us with these documents. And then you hear that that plan has gone underground. So it helps a lot, unlike the issue of people saying, how many people have you taken to court?
Yes.
You take people to court.
So how many, perhaps complaints do you get, and how are you able to sieve through that, this one is something worth following, or this is just malice, or this is something
That's very important, Catherine. We get a lot of cases. And this is some of the challenge that we face as a commission. Because if you look at our act, it says any corruption cases we must investigate. Other international organizations that are fighting corruption, like the Serious Fraud Office in UK, there's a threshold of what constitutes a corruption case that it will handle. Here, if somebody complains that he bribed 1,000 shilling,
yes,
you have to investigate. But that report is, let's say, from Machakos, or it is from, let's say, Murang'a. Would you send 3 officers to go and investigate that case, pay them per DM, get them a car to go up and down because of 1,000 case, or you'll go for a big case? So we need to do a little bit of change of legislation to see what kind of cases that can be handled by the commission. Right now, in a year, we handle about, the reports that come in, they're over 3,000. When they come 3,000 cases, you find almost 1/3 of those cases don't fall within the mandate of the commission. Somebody has got an inheritance problem with his family. He's saying, oh, the lawyer wants to do this and that. My brother did that. There are more of inheritance. Then we refer them to the relevant organization. Then out of that, you find that others require what you call development. somebody has just said county fulani kuna wizi sana, governor naiba. What is it? What is he stealing? Where? When? Why? How? What is he stealing? Who? They don't address that. So you find quite a number of cases, they are quite amorphous. And you cannot involve a team to go and handle an amorphous case. So we look at cases that are concrete and that can end up with conviction. But then backlog is still a challenge, because I know you'll come to that question.
The question of capacity. Do you have the capacity to deal? But we'll talk about that after this short break.
Thank you.
Well, we are engaging the CEO at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Twalib Mbarak, just giving us some insights on what really they're doing in the continued war on corruption. It's time for us to take a short break, but don't go too far. We'll be back in a bit. Thank you for staying tuned. If you're joining us, you're watching Walking the Talk. Our guest this evening, we're engaging the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission CEO, Twalib Mbarak, who is just giving us some of the things that the EACC is doing to try and address the problem of corruption in our country. Before we took the break, we were talking about the capacity of EACC to be able to investigate each and every complaint that comes to you. Are you able to do that?
You know, it's not an issue of being able or not. But we are saying that we operate under a very tight environment. This is a country with 47 million people, as per the census of last week, if I'm not wrong. You have an organization whose has about 720 staff. Out of that, maybe 1/3 are the investigators. And there is one cardinal principle in investigation. You don't allocate one case to one officer, for two reasons. One, if you give one case one officer, the officer can lose objectivity. He can be compromised or he can lose focus accidentally. The other one, when one investigator is investigating a case, the accused can maliciously say, this guy demanded money. There will be nobody to support who is right and who is wrong. So in principle, we always say a case should be handled by at least 3 officers, so that when they walk, they go there as a team. When somebody say this person wanted to do this and that, the others are there say there's nothing like that. And also, in case one officer is getting off the track in the investigation, the others can guide him. So out of that, you find that if one case requires at least 3 investigators, then you have almost 2,000 cases in a year. And a case, you don't start investigating a case today and you are through tomorrow. A minimum that a case can take in investigation, it can take from 1 month even up to 4 years. A case can take up to 4 years to investigate. It depends on the dynamics, under what jurisdiction and all those. And there are challenges in between. So EACC has got the capacity, but it's overstretched like any other agencies in the world. We have challenges in terms of budget. We have challenges in terms of capacity. We have challenges in terms of staff turnover. I'll give you a good example. If you look at the High Court judges, we have at least 14 judges today who came from EACC. They were legal officers here. They left EACC and joined the judiciary because as judges, they found the package is better than what they're earning here. We have a challenge. The commission since 2005, it has never had a salary review because it was alleged, it is said that already the pay...
You are among the highest paid. Yes.
But you can imagine with a young man and a young lady who is under 40, he has worked since 2005, there's no increment of salary. What happened is that in between you find these officers are very well trained. They trained abroad. They train with law enforcement agencies like the FBI and others. So when they're here, private companies, especially banks and other financial institutions, when they advertise and they apply, they're taken like hotcakes because they are seen to be possessing very, very unique skills in investigation. So staff turnover is a challenge to the commission. We have issue of corruption fighting back. People even sponsor through other means to portray the commission as a very corrupt commission with very bad people. There are a lot of accusation. We are being accused we take bribes. We are being accused we are compromised. We are being accused we take political sides. So those are some of the challenges that come in with this work. It's hostile, but once you stay in the organization for a long time, you tend to understand those dynamics. So when you are being accused and being smeared with mud, you just keep quiet and work professionally. Then the other thing that I can say about the challenges is sometimes, although nowadays it seems to be dying, this issue of when somebody is arrested, a prominent person, it appears that it's a certain community that is being finished. That has been a challenge, but today I can see Kenyans are becoming very open and understanding the issues of corruption. So when people start making noise, like politicians, when they start making noise that a certain group is being targeted, you find the public nowadays, they're not with the, they don't take those kind of sentiments. And that one give us morale to work more courageously as a commission.
What about at the county level? Because there's the perception that now we are devolving corruption. Are you able to, stop corruption before it happens when it comes to the county level?
At the county level, I think I'm sorry for the public, but I want to blame them. Because if you look at the county setup, the governor is not somebody appointed, selected. He's elected. Governors are all elected. We don't have nominated governors. All governors go to the ballot and they're elected. Unfortunately, in this country, most of the governors who are serving their second term, who were given a second mandate by the public, are having issues to deal with accountability. But it's the public that brought them back for the second time. MCAs, we have the same problem. So what happened is that most governors are having issues to deal with corruption. It comes to employment. People are employed using fake certificates. People are employed using backdoor tricks. And the EACC cannot be in each and every county. But we sample and we go to some counties and we have some chief officers, we have some governors who we have charged because of that. Either issues of procurement, issue of embezzlement of public funds, payment to non-existing projects. We have some cases, and and it's not the end. The problem is big, and the only way that problem can be addressed is the public, that common citizen. When he is voting, he must look at what type of a person he's voting for.
Does the leadership and integrity chapter do anything in terms of trying to address this particular problem, especially when governors are applying the certain criteria that they're supposed to meet? Are you able to vet them enough before they actually even vie for office?
Yes, but that mandate does not, it falls under us to give recommendation. And we did that to the IEBC. What IEBC does with our recommendation, we cannot enforce. So that's the other problem. And that's why now you see, during going through these declaration forms, you get some contradicting information by other governors or some people. We have taken people to court over fake certificates because you cannot tell immediately whether this person is cheating or not, because during election time you get over 30,000 applicants coming to fill those forms. But there's a disclaimer in that form. There's a warning that this information you are providing, if it is misleading, it's an offense. And it is there in the Leadership and Integrity Act, where it says anybody giving falsified information in the declaration form, there are three options. You can be fined 5 million shillings, you can be jailed 5 years, or it can be both. So if you cheat, but if it comes to our attention that you cheated, just know you are going to be in trouble because it's an offense.
Okay. Yeah. Currently, we have the wealth declaration forms that I think public servants are currently filling. In terms of you being able to go back and look at this particular wealth declaration forms to be able to follow, some of their assets, are you able to do that in good time to be able to raise some of those things?
That's a good question, Catherine, because actually we are amending the law. There is a problem with the wealth declaration form. The wealth declaration form, the way it was created, does not serve the purpose of accountability. They say corruption is responsibility minus accountability. When you are given responsibility but you're not accountable, the end result is corruption. Now, these forms, what we are fighting for as a commission is that these forms, it should be the mandate of the commission to have all the forms under its custody. As at now, all separate government employees, their self-declaration form are under the custody of the respective organization. That's why you find that some people who we took to court, actually we had to spend 1 year to get a court order to go to be able to get somebody's wealth declaration. Now, that was wrong. That was a mistake from the word go. We need to have, if we want to make self-declaration form a deterrence to corruption, first of all, those forms should be online. They should be filled just like the tax return. And the body to be the custodian of those forms should be EACC. And the EACC should be mandated that anytime it wants to go through a self-declaration form individual, it can do it, and if it sees discrepancy, it can take that person to court. It is only at that time that these forms seriously will become a deterrence to corruption. The way it is right now.
So that is something you're working on to try and amend the law?
Yes, but the law must be amended.
Okay. What about the preventive bit of it? Most of the times, by the time EACC is beginning to investigate some of these cases, they happened 5 years ago. We've seen you, someone in members of parliament perhaps, who have already left office. Is it possible for you to stop the graft before it happens, or just get the information when it is happening?
I talked about disruption. We achieve disruption through that prior information that help us to do. But on many occasions, you find that people have already stolen, and we come in. I keep on saying, there's no expiry date for a crime. You cannot say, I stole 10 years ago, why are you coming now? That's a very primitive excuse, and it should never be entertained. If you've been caught, even if it is 5 years ago, we can take you to court if we have evidence that you are involved in corruption. And that is why we have about 3 ex-governors who are now in court because of the misdeeds they did when they were in office. On the other issue of can you prevent? We do the preventive side is what you call is a system review. EACC has got a department that goes to institution, look at everything and put recommendation. And I had talked about it before that the NYS scandal 2 would not have taken place if the Ministry of Devolution at that time agreed with the report of system review done by EACC. EACC recommended, and the document, everything is there in black and white. EACC recommended that NYS should be removed from Ministry of Devolution and become an autonomous organization that is accountable on its own. But somebody somewhere refused, and a second scandal took place, the NYS 2. Unfortunately, the EACC, by law, there is no prescription of what legal action you should take if an entity has not abided by the recommendation of a system review.
Yeah.
So we need also to amend quite a number of laws to make that mandatory, that any recommendation done by EACC on system review must be implemented. If you're not implemented, EACC can come back and get hold of an accounting officer and charge him or her.
So what are some of the laws that perhaps you feel need to be fixed if you're to be able to address some of these challenges?
There are quite a number. There's the issue of the mandate of the commission.
Yeah.
Now, we just say generally corruption. I'll give you a good example. The Serious Fraud Office in UK. In a year, they deal with about 15 cases to court. But those are major cases. And they don't go for the small one because they don't have the they will not have the capacity.
Yeah.
And this is a country that is very developed, is Britain. So we need to have the law amended on the mandate that in enforcement, investigating of economic crimes, there should be a set threshold. Impact, personality involved, and maybe the amount of money that has been stolen.
Yeah.
Then we can have maybe petty corruption or whatever being handled by another agency within the government. Then we need to amend the issue of asset recovery. Because the asset recovery now, it talks about asset recovery coming back to the state. But it doesn't say how it should be, how you take the custody of the money. Now you see, like the other time, the chicken gate scandal. The British government had to buy ambulance to give to Kenya because there was a belief that where do you take this money? That there's a danger that this money, if it goes back, it can be misused.
Yeah.
So we need to set
set
a proper system on that. We need to amend the law on wealth declaration. We need to revisit the Chapter 6 of the Constitution. The Chapter 6 of the Constitution, initially when it was framed, it was quite ideal. But then it faced some hurdles and it was mutilated. We need to address the issue to deal with Chapter 6 of the Constitution. We need to come up on issues of, although now this is a debate, when a public officer has been charged, does he leave office or does he stay in office? Like the governors, there's now a court ruling that people should stay aside. But we saw the other time when there was one of the state officers who was reinstated, and then after some times, the same place, things were stolen. You know, those kind of things. You cannot charge me, and then I keep on coming to my office. I have access to everything. If there's any evidence, common sense tells you that I will destroy that evidence. So we need a proper mechanism of when somebody is charged, how does he vacate a public office or a state office? Yeah.
Do you see yourself getting members of parliament to amend the law? Is it something that you have already started a process that has begun?
I can say, as at now, we are in the process. We are now making something on conflict of interest. We have polished a paper on conflict of interest, streamlining it, and most likely it will go to parliament, and that one can be amended. The parliamentarians, like we are answerable to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and they are very supportive of us. When we explain our problem, they do understand. They do understand, but they also equally say that, we are under pressure by the public, that we need to address this issue of corruption. So we understand the anger of the public. But we also need to do some streamlining within you see, like the last general election, the judiciary came out that all petition must be dealt within this period.
A specific time.
A specific time. So we pray that one day maybe the judiciary will say all corruption cases under this threshold must take within this type of time to be concluded. Because they take long, and the more they drag, the way I told you, the more a case drags, the more it loses, it becomes weak on the way. You have witnesses dying, witnesses relocating to other countries, and the case becomes weak.
Has the setting up of the anti-corruption court in itself helped in fast-tracking some of these cases?
Yes. We are not yet there, but it has helped. Because I used to be in this commission before.
Yeah.
I was here 2006, 2010. Those days, cases will just drag and drag and drag. Nowadays, there is an element that cases they proceed and they are determined. And that's why we are saying that we have finalized cases in court, 78, and out of those 51, there were 51 convictions, 23 acquittals, and 4 withdrawals.
That is within a span of how long?
1 year. It's a span of 1 year. We have cases Unfortunately, the media don't cover them. Some of them you'll call them small, but I would not like to dismiss small cases. I'll give you a good example. Let's say cases of bribery within the traffic police. If we leave them freely, we don't charge them. The traffic will know that our cases are not being handled by EACC because they are classified as minor. But look at that frustration a motorist undergo before a traffic policeman. Being stopped, the guy pretends he's looking on the other side, checking, taking your license. We need to address that matter. It inconveniences so many people as much as it appears is petty. Somebody walking into a government office, he's not getting service because a guy is requesting 1,000 shilling, 2,000 shilling. You may say it's a small case, but for a common Kenyan to part with 2,000 shilling to give it to somebody knowing it is my right to be served and I'm giving this person 2,000, it's very frustrating.
Okay.
So as much as we go for high impact cases, we should not ignore small cases.
Have you had incidences of perhaps political interference, given that if you look at EACC and what has been happening previously with all those who have sat, where you have sat and how, they've left office has always been very controversial. Are you still getting, the same political interference that they always talked about?
My predecessor, Mr. Wako, finished his 6 years, so he did not disappear. He finished his term and went.
I'm talking about the one before him.
I'll tell you something. Maybe you won't believe. Nobody has called me to say, I want this case to go this way or that way. Nobody. And maybe people know that I will not listen to them. I will not be manipulated. But nobody has called me to say, there's this case, give priority, is a political case, or this one, please take it this way. I have never. This is my 10th month. Since I came in, 11th January, 11th November, I finished 10 months. Nobody has called me to tell me, please do this and that and that. It's a perception. It's a perception. And I think whoever wants to do that, maybe, I don't know, he has studied me or she has studied me, and they have known that I cannot take that kind of nonsense. So I'm not manipulated. And I don't manipulate my staff. I have never asked my staff, bring a file. I go to the enforcement committee, I sit down, files are discussed. These ones will be taken to the DPP. These ones, they have some problems, go and check this and that and that. My work, I sign. Section 35 report, I sign and finished.
In the 10 months, what are some of the things that perhaps you can say you're happy you have been able to implement? The achievements that you can say the Commission has been able to grow from this to this?
First, the number of cases that we have taken to the DPP, they have increased. The DPP has concurred with a number of high cases that we have dealt with. Right now, we have how many governors? We have about 3 governors that we've taken to court. One is suspended. 2 are suspended, and we have more counties that we are focusing. We have taken big cases like the Lake Basin. We have taken cases on CDF. The latest that we have taken.
Yeah.
And it's the same commission that people had doubt about the staff, but they're the same staff, and they are working. And we look, as a commission, I trust we are in the right direction.
Okay.
EACC is in the right direction, and we shall continue to target the counties because that is where money is being wasted a lot.
Yeah.
We also focus on government ministries. We are everywhere, and we are on the right direction. I know Kenyans want very quick results. I can tell you this war is a big war. It's a big war. I have my colleagues, the DCI, the DPP, we work as a team, and now we have the multi-agency team composed of ourselves, the DCI, the DPP, KRA, Asset Recovery Agency, Financial Reporting Center, Central Bank of Kenya, and we are working as a team. Where we have a problem, the other one assists.
Okay.
So we are in the right direction. but it will take time. You don't fight corruption through EACC alone. You fight corruption through a multiple sort of approach.
Okay.
The public must support us. They must look at the people they are electing, and also the public must be accountable. During budget process, there is a provision where the public can go and query a budget, even at county level. Citizens must participate and go there and ask their leaders, these capital projects you are dealing with. And you know, we have accountants, we have architects, they can walk in a county. This project, why is it costing this much? And out of that, the accountability across the board will improve.
Okay.
And in the long run, corruption will go down.
Okay, our time is up, but I just want to ask you, is it possible for us to win this war on graft?
Very
as
much.
a country?
It is. It is very possible. There's nothing impossible. And I'll give you an example. Hong Kong, in the early 70s, it was more of a rogue entity when it was under the British. All these dirty things, criminal activities, heroines, drugs, what used to pass through Hong Kong. That was about 50 years ago. Today, Hong Kong is the most accountable entity in the world. When they look at their budget as an overseas territory of China, Hong Kong, their challenge is not budget deficit. Their challenge is budget surplus.
So how do we get there?
They tell you, their Minister for Finance always go wrong by estimating a lower amount of budget surplus. In the during the end of financial year, they end up more than what the minister has said. So we can go that way.
So how do we get there? How do you think we can get there?
3 ways.
Yes.
There's a triangle of fighting corruption. The corruption strategy falls under a triangle. The societal, the enforcement, and the judicial. Or I would say the societal, the political, and the enforcement. The societal, the public. And that comes about how the people behave. Citizens must be law-abiding people. The political side, the same. So, and then the enforcement, that is ourselves, judiciary. If the three each one play his or her role, the war can be won. But when one is strong, the other one is weak, we'll have a challenge.
We'll have a challenge. All right. Thank you very much for your time. We have to put a cap on the show this evening, but we do appreciate you finding time to sit down and tell us what are some of the things that the Commission is doing to try and fight this particular war. So we do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, we have been talking to the CEO at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Twalib Mbarak, just giving us some of the things that EACC is doing to try and address the problem of corruption, their strategy forward, and most importantly, he's saying corruption begins with you and me. If the society can change, then the war can be won. This is where we put a cap on Walking the Talk. Thank you for watching. My name is Achieng'a. Bye for now.